Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome back to Constitutional Considerations here on Tactical Review. I'm Blair, joined on the other side of the screen by Elias from the Liberty Review podcast. Elias, welcome. Thanks for joining.
Hey, glad to be here.
And thank you to our viewers who are already in here having a fantastic conversation. It looks like about Brownell's Alumahide. I've not played with any of that yet. I keep intending to, and then instead just go buy cheap spray paint because I'm a cheap, trashy kind of guy. That came out wrong. Anyway, congratulations again to our 500 subscriber giveaway winners from last week, and yeah, your goodies are in the process of being shipped. So. Especially for you t-shirt winners, that's going to be in the hands of Teespring, and I wish that I could say that I had any kind of control, but I don't. Oh, 3,000 rounds of M193, 8M3. Well, congrats, George Washington. Found 3 cases each. I'm impressed.
At an affordable price, apparently.
Or a price he's willing to pay. I actually ordered, I think it was Friday. I paid 31 cents a round for a case of Steelcase 223. I was a little disgusted with myself, but given the fact that it's 20 cents a round cheaper than what I've seen it everywhere else, I decided to go for it. So, we got brownies for my fat in the chat. Poor conservative, George Washington, and we know that other people will be joining us. So, as you guys see from the title tonight, we're just talking about do as I say, not as I do. And this comes not because we're surprised that we're seeing more hypocrisy out of the political elite, but very specifically, everybody, I'm sure, has seen the news that in recent days, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away due to pancreatic cancer, I believe it was.
Yeah. And
that has obviously left an opening in the Supreme Court. And poor conservative, I'm glad you like the title. No, it really.
I accept.
It really does create an opening in the Supreme Court.
I accept. I'm already here.
Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. Elias takes the nomination. I'm good with that.
So is this the pancreatic cancer that has COVID? Are they actually being honest with hers?
I'm gonna guess that they're being honest. I have to say. One, I'm glad that I'm not monetized yet, because that would have just demonetized the stream. You're actually not allowed to say that word, or you will lose monetization. Not, again, that I anticipate that my channel will ever actually be monetized.
Hey, you're up to 575. You're getting there.
I'm getting there. But I actually, one of the young ladies that I know said that she had an aunt who passed away back in the very early days of Indiana's Safer at Home initiative, and the hospice worker, or her aunt, passed away from cancer, had been battling cancer for quite a while, and the hospice workers actually asked if the family would be okay if the cause of death was listed as pandemic related.
Well, that's so they can get some money.
Yeah.
And I'm not joking. I'm not being flippant. It's actually what's going on.
Oh yeah, there's
hospitals and stuff are being paid for every COVID patient.
So
it's really interesting.
Anyway, that's really neither here nor there. But so in the wake of this, though, we find ourselves in a situation not identical, but similar to where we were 4 years ago when Justice Scalia passed away during the primary cycle. And the whole hypocrisy comes in. Well, I just would like to first start by saying that Justice Ginsburg's, I guess, final wish was that her seat would stay. Oh, right here. Her most fervent wish is that I will not be replaced until a new president is installed. However, 4 years ago, she told the New York Times, "There's nothing in the Constitution that says the president stops being the president in his last year." In 2016, she urged the Senate to, quote, "do their job and consider President Obama's court nominee, Merrick Garland." So, yeah, Ninja Scout, welcome. So what are your feelings on this, Elias? I guess we'll start with this.
I think so. First of all, the president has, just like President Obama did in 2016. President Trump has the sole authority to nominate Supreme Court justices. There's nothing in there that says unless they're within X number of days of the election. It just says the president shall nominate the justices of the Supreme Court. So just like President Obama, I think President Trump has the right to do that, and the Senate has the right to take it up and do a confirmation. Having said that, my personal opinion is that he should wait. And that's more of due to the fact that it's just going to get even worse in the politicizing. But the other concern is we are very close to the election itself. And what's going to happen is the Senate's going to try to hurry up and push this through before the election. Instead of saying, look, even if we all are kicked out of office before January 1st, we still have time. You know they're not going to. They're going to try to rush it through and hurry up and nominate. And so I do have a concern that there will not be a good vetting, a good confirmation process, because Senator McConnell and everybody else are just going to want to hurry up and get this through so they can call it a victory.
Right.
In other words, it's not going to be done for the right reasons. They're going to do it to politicize. They're going to do it to rub it into the Democratic Party's face, things like that. So, in my opinion, they should hold off, but there's nothing that requires them to hold off. But there is plenty of hypocrisy going around, because plenty of those exact same ones that are trying to push this through now in 2016 refuse to do confirmation hearings 10 months out.
Well,
so,
absolutely. As a matter of fact, Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina said that 2 years later, if a future Republican president found himself in the same situation, quote, "we'll wait till the next election." He added, "You could use my words against me and you'd be absolutely right." And yet this past Saturday, he tweeted, "I will support President Donald Trump in any effort to move forward regarding the recent vacancy created by the passing of Justice Ginsburg."
Our own Senator Young for Indiana has similar statements.
Yeah, it's Warsaw Patriot. What I'm really concerned about is the Antifa/BLM communist intersection besides the court seats. If not, the court seats of power will... If not, the court seats of power will describe...
So here's the good thing. Ginsburg was pretty liberal. She was very adamant about the fact that she was extremely liberal. Worst case scenario, absolute worst case scenario, is another liberal president, or I'm sorry, another liberal judge ends up in that same seat. But because it is the Supreme Court, it's 1 of 9. We have 4 conservatives, 4 liberals, and then you've got one who you really don't know which way he's going to go on any given case. So yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not really a big fan of the balance being in one side or the other. Because as we have talked before, both sides have their failings when it comes to the Constitution.
Well, absolutely.
So I'm not really a big fan of either side getting it. I know that for a lot of conservatives, they're like, yes, we can get a conservative bench in here. It'll be majority conservative. Stop and think for a second. Conservative bench is also the one that said Obamacare was allowed. A conservative bench is the one that's upheld the Patriot Act provisions. So,
well,
don't think that just because it's a conservative bench that your rights aren't going to get trampled on.
And it's been conservative justices that have refused to accept a couple of Pro 2A cases recently.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep. And the good thing is about the conservative liberal balance with the one wild card in the middle is both sides are bad for their own reasons, and usually they're pretty good at keeping each other in check, which is kind of. I don't agree with every Supreme Court thing that comes down the line. DACA is another good one. There was a conservative majority, if you include Justice Roberts, but DACA was seen as being unconstitutional, even though DACA was actually absolutely constitutional. I'm not DACA. DOMA, Defense of Marriage Act, was absolutely constitutional, but
well,
anyway, my point being that even if Biden was the one to appoint, or Harris, if you want to be realistic, it's not going to get any worse than it was 2 weeks ago.
So Warsaw, actually, you just kind of beat me sort of to a point that I was getting ready to make. Warsaw Patriot, in case you're not able to see the live chat right now, says, here's the problem. Nobody wants to follow and acknowledge Constitution law, and the federal law and state law isn't doing that. And of course, there's a whole nother discussion about state law and the Constitution and the federal Constitution, of course. We've touched on that in several episodes past. But the fact of the matter is that it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter what somebody's party affiliation is for a position like the Supreme Court. Now, I understand it absolutely does, because nobody is capable of being fully unbiased in everything. But the fact of the matter is when you look at the job of the Supreme Court, they're supposed to take cases that come up because something is allegedly unconstitutional, either a law or the lack thereof, and they're supposed to take a look at the Constitution, take a look at the law, and then say, yes, this is constitutional, or no, this is not constitutional. And to do that, all one needs to be able to do is comprehend the English language.
Yeah.
Legitimately, it's a lot like, and I've said this before to people locally, a sheriff's political affiliation shouldn't matter. The sheriff vows an oath or swears an oath to the constitutions of their state and the United States of America to uphold those two documents, basically.
And that was the whole point of the justices. If you ever notice when they talk about Justice Ginsburg, Justice Scalia, Chief Justice Roberts, there's no R or D next to their name. The idea is supposed to be that they are supposed to be apolitical. There's a reason why they are appointed for life. There's a reason that they are outside of that kind of, supposed to be outside of that sphere of influence of the rest of the politicians, because they were supposed to be the ones that were the checks and balance for the other two parties to make sure they didn't go too far. And unfortunately, it's all become political.
Well, absolutely. And what we see now is, instead of having a legislative branch, an executive branch, and a judicial branch the way we're supposed to, we have the legislative branch that's for sale to the highest lobby. We have the executive branch legislating by executive fiat, and then you have the judicial branch legislating from the bench.
Yeah. And that's the other thing is the idea behind it is they're supposed to take cases and say, is this constitutional or not? They're also not supposed to take cases of people against each other. It's supposed to be very basic. What are the laws and what does the Constitution say? And if it violates the laws or those laws are unconstitutional, that's it. But instead, they
Yeah.
get up there and decide that they're going to decide what the law says. Like I said, DOMA was, I think, a good example of that. The Defense of Marriage Act was a good example because the Constitution actually allows the states to make those decisions, and Congress gets to legislate how those are recognized. So Congress actually does get to say, okay, well, you know what? We will say that Indiana doesn't have to recognize, something that was done in Illinois. They don't have to. But again, that's not what they were doing. They were legislating from the bench.
Right, and to me, a perfect example is the... Okay, now this is... Let me back up before I say this. Does a case have to be made at a lower court and then referred to the Supreme Court, or can the Supreme Court say, whoa, that garbage that you guys just signed into law is unconstitutional?
A case has to be brought before the Supreme Court. Justices aren't allowed to just say whatever they want to.
Regardless, though, there was the opportunity for them to hear the bump stock ban. And that, no question in my mind, obviously, stuff's falling apart here. No question in my mind, that is a violation of the Second Amendment. The Second Amendment protects all arms, all accessories that go to all arms, etc., etc. When that was referred to the Supreme Court, it should have been accepted. It should have been, because as I recall, liberal though she was, even Justice Ginsburg made some fairly sweeping pro-2A statements. Things like, of course technology is going to improve. I seem to recall reading that she had said that.
Maybe, I'm not sure.
Well, that's what the Google is for.
There you go.
Let's just say...
So I know a lot of times, I'm looking it up real quick, a lot of times what happens with the Supreme Court is that there is a consensus of the lower courts. They tend to not want to take the case. And that's what happened with the bump stock ban, is that every step of the way, the courts all upheld what Trump was doing. And so then the Supreme Court went, well, there's no if even one of those had disagreed, then there may have been, maybe we would have gotten it, because Gorsh said something about, Justice Gorsh said something about that he doesn't think it should be reviewed, but at the same time he thought that the lower courts used the wrong logic. Like, well, if you think they used the wrong logic and you think the case was tried incorrectly, then shouldn't you review it?
I don't.
But again, the Supreme Court's the ultimate authority, so when it comes to the court system, so
yeah, and that's something I realize we're kind of rabbit trailing on that. I don't understand how somewhere along the way nobody except the plaintiffs in the case are saying this is unconstitutional. It violates so many articles of the Bill of Rights. But
the argument is that the precedent has been set incorrectly, in my opinion, that rights can be legislated. It's the same reason why I can't remember, was it Holmes that made the thing of you can't say fire in a crowded theater, therefore free speech isn't free speech. The problem is that speech can be legislated because you can't yell fire in a crowded theater. The problem was that his logic was a little bit flawed, because you can't yell fire in a theater because it was caught as a disturbance. The person being arrested would not be arrested for saying the word fire. They'd be arrested for causing a disturbance.
Inciting a mass panic. Which then circles back around to why aren't the media corporations being fined or tried or shut down for causing a mass panic? But that's another story entirely. And
follow the money.
And actually, as I did some quick Googling, I could have sworn I read something about Ginsburg, paraphrasing, said that of course technology was going to change, but no, it was more, if the court had properly interpreted the Second Amendment, the court would have said the amendment was very important when the nation was new. It gave a qualified right to keep and bear arms, but it was for one purpose only, and that was the purpose of having militiamen who were able to fight to preserve the nation, which, okay, yeah, that's true, and that's the reason that we still need it. Anyway, her position on the Second Amendment was that it was essential early on, but it has no place in modern society. So I stand corrected, and I'm fully okay with that. That's I'm really good at being wrong. Ask my wife. Let's see. Yeah, corruption's been going on for a long time. It's definitely, I don't know where I would point my finger that it really, I feel like there's been a steep decline in the moral fiber in Washington, but I'm not sure where to pinpoint the begin of that slide.
I blame the 60s. Ever since the 60s, it's been downhill. Everything's been downhill.
It's funny how our so-called representatives are doing legislation that goes against what our servicemen and women fought and died for. Absolutely. Hunts, yeah, I know that the media is Democrat controlled. And social media is absolutely leftist controlled. But again, it's just amusing to me in a very macabre way that if I was to go into a crowded place and yell fire, I would, and I'm going to say rightly, be arrested for attempting to incite a mass panic. You know, that's one of those, it's a fine line thing that, you know, I think that we go too far with this, you know, hate speech and you know, a person should be a decent person. So somebody who's bullying somebody else is just a terrible human being. Unfortunately, though, I do believe they have the right to do that. The flip side is that I think somebody else should have the right to close their mouth for them.
There's consequences to your actions.
There should be, but unfortunately, in the scenario that we just played out, the consequences would fall on the person who made something that was verbal physical. And, you know, but it kind of depends on how far this bullying and hatred has gone, because, you know, driving somebody to the point of suicide is also problematic. Anyway, again, we're rabbit trailing. Politicians only care about money rather than hear our voices. Absolutely. I've been getting emails of people asking me for money for their vote. Brastard, you know, keep following the law and complying, and it will never end. You know, there's a lot to be said for that we, the people, will have to decide when enough is enough. You know, and we've talked about this a lot. The question is, how close are we to that precipice? Here's food for thought. Do the good and moral and the upstanding people need to maintain the initiative deficit? I mean, in a self-defense situation, we know that you can't just draw down on somebody because they looked scary. Matter of fact, a lot of the scariest looking people I've seen are usually big teddy bears. So is this the large-scale correlation of that, though? That we, the good, the just, and the upright, have to wait for the other side to make the first move, even if it requires us going straight to the brink? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I'm presenting this to everybody at home as a thought exercise. I mean, actually, Elias, I'm kind of interested on your thoughts on that.
I think it's hard. Where do you draw the line? And I don't think it's a question that most of us can answer. I think it's most of us will know. And I think it is going to be the other side, because the thing is, most of the people who are legitimately ready to fight, to defend, they don't want to be the ones to start.
Right.
They don't want to be the aggressors. Most of them have a more defensive mentality.
Yeah, and Brastard and Poor Conservative talking about that bar owner who was in a self-defense situation, and the DA ended up pressing charges, and he has now committed suicide rather than try to face the, deal with the legal fundings. And though they're not a sponsor of the channel, situations like that are why I personally carry USCCA carriers insurance. Do I have other things that I could spend that money on every month? Well, absolutely. But not planning for that is, in my mind, like planning to try to buckle my seatbelt as I see that I'm getting into a car accident. Unfortunately, I know that popular opinion is against the self-defenders right now. And so I plan for that the best I can.
Oh, yeah, here we go. I knew there was this case too. Back in June, I didn't know about this. Somebody just told me about this one. Back in June, there was a guy who was beaten. He's a pastor, black pastor, and he was beaten, and he got arrested right in front of his assaulters.
Wait.
The sheriff came and arrested him because it was just easier that way. They arrested him. Let's see. Officers told him they had to arrest him for brandishing a gun. He had been attacked.
So that black life didn't matter.
No.
Okay, I just making sure I was clear on that.
Yeah. No, they apologized to him afterwards, but yeah. That was in Virginia.
Oh well, no, that makes it a little less surprising. Good old Majesty Lord Northam there.
So here's from NBC. They said all 5 people started attacking him verbally and physically. They were threatening to kill me, telling me that my life didn't matter. He pulled his firearm on them. They left. He called 911 for help. When authorities arrived, they didn't ask him what happened. They just arrested him. They spoke to the other people, to the assaulters, and then arrested him.
Yeah. Warsaw, is that at me? Yeah, I guess obligatory. Nothing you hear on this live stream or on any live stream constitutes legal advice. Neither Elias nor myself, nor the firms we represent, both Liberty Review and Tactical Review, are legal professionals. If ever in doubt, please consult a proper lawyer. Maybe should have done that at the beginning. I probably just need to make that a blanket
Put the
disclaimer.
disclaimer right there in the description. Yeah. For entertainment purposes only.
So
does not constitute legal or medical advice. Don't put a tourniquet on your neck. No, actually, that is good.
That's fantastic medical advice. Yeah. Maddox was not expecting that at all. That was fantastic. I really highly enjoyed that. So, well, we're kind of getting off of the. We've gone way off. Although, have we really?
That never
have
happened.
We really though? I mean, yeah, we're off of
because
Ginsburg, but we are absolutely on the hypocrisy once again.
No, because we could tie it in. I mean, if you think about it, you come back down to the protests and things. You could even argue that one, that if you're not protesting the right things, or the protesters themselves who are hypocrites. Hypocritical. That's the word.
Well, yeah, you see plenty of that too. Want nothing to do with the police until they've lit themselves on fire. or until, you know, somebody that they are attacking because they think they have the upper hand all of a sudden blows half their bicep off, and then they want the cops.
I didn't even thought of that. Yeah. Or Dallas had that. I remember when they were protesting cops in Dallas, and then somebody opened fire a couple years ago, and then all of a sudden it was everybody screaming for the police.
Yep. It's across the board. And again, I understand, as I mentioned the last time we talked about hypocrisy, we all have a capacity for it. We all want to excuse what we see in our lives while calling it out in somebody else's. I mean, it's just the human condition.
And that's really what we're seeing out of Washington right now. Like I said, Senator Young out of Indiana, back in 2016, said, "Oh, we shouldn't do it. We should wait and let the people vote." And then now this time he's saying, "Hurry up and do it and get it done with."
And Agbon, to answer your question, how Canoe Arm didn't get charged, I have no idea. I have not a clue. That whole situation continues to baffle me.
Because he wasn't on the side that would be politically advantageous for the DA.
Fair enough.
I mean, really, that's what it comes down to. They're in a heavy, I'm not sure Kenosha, I'm assuming it's a heavy liberal area, just because it's a decent-sized city. And so the DA election year.
Protesters didn't last long in Hunt's hometown. Motorcycle groups broke them up. You know. Brastard, maybe his rights were restored. Given his rap sheet and what I can recall of his most recent charges, I'm gonna guess not. But hey, and you know, and once again, that's a sticky wicket. We've talked about that before. As a matter of fact, I was in the Indiana Citizens Defense League Slack, and we were kind of talking about restoration of rights for felons. And it's like I've said before, I feel like if a person has paid their debt to society, then they should have their rights restored. If they haven't paid their debt to society, they shouldn't have been released. And somebody pointed out, you know, the rate of recidivism, and I get that. I fully comprehend that. I understand why these people don't get their rights back. My question is, why were they let out? And he pointed out, we're not able to hold people indefinitely. It's just not something that's allowable. And so, you know, I have a sort of extreme solution to that, but then that starts getting me called names, you know, that would be in line with my German ancestry. So anyway, I realize, Warsaw, there are some felons can have rights restored. As a matter of fact, big news I saw today is that Mr. Bloomberg paid quite a handsome sum of money to cover fines so that a large number of felons in the state of Florida could have their rights restored.
Now, I will say this: if he did it without any test of political leanings, but how much you want to bet? Only certain ones were paid.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, obviously, we know what his policies are, what he would have done had he got the presidential nomination, etc., etc. I was going someplace with that. Oh, with him not being the on the presidential ballot, at least it's not a direct, wow, this dude is absolutely buying votes.
Now, here's the thing I'm curious about. This would be a really hard one from Bloomberg. Wasn't he the one that brought in stop and frisk? Leave that there.
Yep.
You all make of it what you will.
And all of its, you know,
It's the irony is just violating rights and then turning around and paying so that rights can be restored. Okay.
It almost seems like hypocrisy at the point.
I just a little bit. I was going to leave it there. I wasn't going to say it. I didn't want to be the one.
Yeah, Warsaw, back in World War II, we allowed people who were convicted felons to certain crimes to choose military time or jail time. Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea in concept. And I think that hard time should be hard time. People constantly talk about how a lot of times, aside from not being able to do what they want to do when they want to do it, they live more comfortably than a lot of Americans. Having not served any prison time myself, I can neither confirm nor deny that. But I know that there are plenty of Americans who don't have air conditioning. So why do our prisons?
Cable TV.
Now, I don't necessarily disagree with them being able to get an education while they're in there. That can absolutely be part of rehabilitation. But, and having not been on the inside and knowing that there's two sides to every story, I understand I'm not able to speak authoritatively on this. And actually, one of my best friends, he went to prison for it was drug charges. He happened to have enough methamphetamine on him that he was charged for trafficking. He ended up becoming a Christian while he was in prison, and completely turned his life around. And he was one of my, I never knew him before. I only knew him after, and I'd say that was a case, a success story. But being of the worldview that I am, I don't think at all it was a success story of the American penal system. I think it was a success story of a higher power, which is definitely a little off the beaten trail. Except for the fact that the First Amendment gives us means that the government can't force any particular religion on us, so we can choose to believe what we believe. There we go. Constitutional.
Hey, there you go.
I don't know about you, but if I was a convicted felon and committed the crime of theft when I was 17. Yeah, Warsaw, I definitely see a lot of good in that concept. The downsides are, though, that then that puts us back. It moves us away from our current volunteer army and makes it more of a conscripted army.
Well, he did say that it was optional.
It's still a choice.
It's still optional. The thing is, you're probably not going to get it right now. The reason it worked during World War II is because they needed a large amount of troops. These days, they're pretty much making quotas.
Right.
So when the military can kind of pick and choose who they're going to take, you're not going to really have that going on right now.
Right, because...
And our military is too big as it is, in my opinion.
Well, there's a lot of truth to that. So, takeaway tonight is the political elite, which are words that taste like vomit in my mouth, absolutely flip-flop like the clothes out on the clothesline in a good old Indiana tornado.
Bradford, I completely agree with you.
Yeah, that's one of those things that, and actually, drugs are one of those things that really caught me flat-footed when I realized that Well, once again, the government has no business trying to legislate morality.
No. I don't mind dealers. Fine. Dealers, yeah, it can be a criminal offense, but that's my libertarian coming out, is using should not be illegal.
And I'm of the opinion that I personally morally think it's wrong. We'll take that back to the body as a temple. You should do your best to maintain it. I haven't always done the greatest of that either, so once again, I'm a hypocrite. But just because I believe something is morally wrong, if it is not, let's give it the old Declaration of Independence test. All people are equal and have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if what I'm doing is not infringing on somebody else's life, their liberty, or their pursuit of happiness, it should be lawful. Now, if you're under the influence and you go out and drive, that changes the scenario, because you have a high potential of infringing on somebody else's life,
right,
or possibly the pursuit of happiness for the rest of their life. So that changes the scenario, sure. But just because I find something morally reprehensible, well, that gets back to the church's and the community's job. So, anyway, I'll get down off my soapbox a little bit, although this channel is kind of my soapbox.
That's true. I mean, it's yours, so you can kind of do whatever you want.
Well, it's YouTube's, and they kind of let me say things for now until they decide to stop. But that, is what it is.
That's what it's there for.
ASVAB is meant to see what you're good at, not meant to be a test. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although.
Yeah, and that's what gets a lot of people hung up on ASVAB. You brought it up, so now I'll say it. Is that they're told it's a test, so they end up going and studying all these different areas, and then they get put into jobs that they don't actually want and they're not very good at, but because they studied for it. I knew somebody who did that. They knew they were going to go take ASVAB. They knew nothing about mechanical stuff, so they went and asked their dad. And after they took the test, the military tried putting them into mechanical work. Like, wow, you're really good at this. It's like, no, just go in there. Don't study for it. Just go take it. Whatever you get, that helps you to understand what you're good at. But
now, that said, I did have a buddy who went into the Army, and he had to study math to meet the minimum requirement to even be a ground pounder. So there's some basic skills that you should definitely brush up on.
But remember, it's high school level. So, not to be rude, but it's the idea of if you don't have that basic high school level, you probably shouldn't be there, because you are going to have to do that basic. Even if you're infantry, you're going to have to understand calculations and things like that of what you're doing.
Yeah. And poor conservative, yeah, if nothing else, there's probably some barter going on. That's... We can talk this around in circles till we're blue in the face, because it's not the world we live in. The world we live in, man, we gotta win that war on drugs. Although I haven't heard anything about that for a while. Didn't that basically went away, when we switched to the global war on terror, didn't it?
Is that where we're at right now? Who really knows?
I don't know.
Right now, we're on the war with racism, police.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not really sure.
Do you think it's worth going into the National Guard, pushing 30, and you have a career? That's such a personal choice.
Yeah, it's a personal choice. Do I think it'd be worth it? Right, sure. It depends on what you're going in. What's your reasoning behind it? If you're going in because you want to go pretend you're Rambo, that's obviously nobody really should go in the military for that. But if you're going into it because it's the National Guard and you're kind of thinking, being able to help during disasters and things like that, sure. Just remember that the federal government abuses the crap out of the National Guard. National Guard was meant to stay home and only be activated by the feds and like we are like World War II kind of situation where, all of our active duty troops are gone and we still need more. But what they do nowadays is they send National Guard first because it's cheaper.
Yeah.
And then, and that, from somebody who was active duty, that really used to tick us off to watch National Guard units go, and we're like, that's our job. That's what we're here for. Why are you taking these guys out of their neighborhoods and their families and their jobs when that's our job? So I would say, is it worth it at your age? Sure. Is it, but understand why you're going and understand the reality of it, and don't listen to the recruiter. So understand the reality of what it's like being in the National Guard.
Right.
But that's a personal question.
And depending on your MOS, that will obviously change how likely it is that you go out of country.
Correct.
But I will say that a young lady who relatively within the last, I think, 3 years graduated high school, she went into the Guard. She had a desire to wear the camo, to serve in whatever way, and she's actually in logistics. So, she's a military UPS worker. And man, if she's watching this stream, she's going to kick my butt next time I see her. Anyway, very relatively shortly after completing basic, she ended up spending 6 months, I think it was, over in Kuwait. So she was far from the front lines, but she went out country very shortly after completing her basic and her AIT. Is it called AIT when it's for logistics? I don't know.
I thought AIT was like their overall training, but that might be just infantry. I
know it used to be advanced infantry training, and now I think it's advanced I don't know.
It's something else. I think they all go through advanced individual training now.
That sounds right.
Yeah, so it is AIT. I was like, that sounds like it should be, but to me it sounds like it should be advanced infantry, so I was doubting myself.
So, lots of people do drugs, only a tiny amount I would consider dopers. Okay. Yeah, and again, going back to that, that's another personal question. And it's ironically, if you guys are following channel on social media, then you saw yesterday and then today that I have recently started a new mental toughness program. I don't want it labeled as a fitness program because that's not the primary purpose. And by the way, if you're not following the channel on social media, you should be. But anyway, today I started 75 Hard. And the concept there is to do it. Honestly, an individual day isn't difficult. I won't go into all the ins and outs of the program, but an individual day is not hard. I have completed the requirements of an individual day many, many times across the last 6 years. The difficulty comes in doing each individual day for 75 days in a row to build that habit of mental toughness. And so my perspective on, lots of people do drugs. I think that there's along the way, there was a lack of mental toughness that looked for an easier out. And man, so many times I've been satisfied with mediocrity. So many times I've been satisfied with the easy way out. So I've never had that particular temptation, but I've had my own temptations. I've got my own places where I'm okay with just being okay. And so since I'm standing here in a glass house, I'm not going to throw rocks. And it just is what it is. And Braster, absolutely. I'd rather have dangerous freedom And as a matter of fact, I'm going to finish that quote in more the way that it was originally stated. I'd rather have dangerous freedom than peaceful slavery.
Mm-hmm.
So, and so, no, this is actually, if I could do it on the keto diet, I'd pop some popcorn right now.
Yeah. Watching this.
Yeah, so guys in the chat, please do keep it civil. I understand it's definitely it's easily a heated topic, because especially once you start talking about drugs, you also have to talk about a liquid drug, aka alcohol, not caffeine. Caffeine's fine. And I have a family tie to a situation that I think alcohol was a high contributing factor. And so I understand, to speak for Warsaw's side here, I understand very vehemently being against. If you're a friend or a family member to somebody who allowed that one personal choice to take over their lives and spin out of control, right, it's very easy to be vehemently against. For somebody who hasn't suffered from an addiction, absolutely, I see saying that it's just a personal liberty situation. So much comes from our individual perspectives.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I think you can see it in both ways. I think you can see it as a personal liberty choice, because we've discussed this before. You can't legislate morality. But at the same time, I think you can also see it as something that you don't want to see going on.
Right.
You can see that alcohol, if you want to use alcohol as the example of the legal drug, as it were, you can see it as a personal choice. People can choose to take alcohol, but if you see somebody who is abusing that, you see things that are dangerous, you obviously want to try to stop it. That doesn't necessarily mean we're going to make it all legal. They tried that. It didn't work out very well. And I think you can see the same thing with drugs, of saying that, yeah, we can't legislate morality. Putting people in jail for drug use is not working. It's not going to work.
Right.
But having the tools to help people get out of that addiction and get away from that kind of stuff, I think you can have both. I don't think it has to be, it's a false dichotomy to say it's only one way or the other. You can be against drugs and say nobody should have drug use, but also understand that it's that person's choice to use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of, you can have both, because that's kind of the way I feel about it. I don't think necessarily that drug use should be a felony, but I also don't think people should be doing it either.
Right. Once again, you can find it morally reprehensible while still believing that the government needs to stay out of it.
And there's a lot of things that I can feel that way, that I do feel that way about, where it's like morally I'm against it, but I don't think legislating it's the way to go.
And this goes back to, there's so many things. It is a failing of our communities. It's oftentimes at us Christians, it's a failing of our churches that the government has gotten so big as to step in. Welfare programs. We were called to take care of orphans and widows and stuff. We were called to take care of those who can't take care of themselves. But because of several reasons, that didn't happen. And now the government is in a position where, okay, well, we'll do it. Kind of the Thanos thing, fine, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
So it is 5 until 10, and we are way off the beaten path. But at the end of the day,
you followed your fans.
I absolutely did, and I love my fans, and I will happily follow the conversation where it goes. And poor conservative, once again, I think you hit the nail on the head. That's the old Declaration of Independence litmus test. All people have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And if in my pursuit of happiness I infringe upon another's, I am wrong. That is moral law. That is natural law. That is law above all other man's laws. To quote several of our founding fathers and the authors from which they studied. I really do. I think we should wipe the slates clean of all of the laws on the books. Wipe them clean. Keep the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, including the amendments. So you find those have been voted on, ratified, and then every situation, just give the litmus test of that. Honestly, most of it, you can just give it the Declaration of Independence litmus test. See, and then there's a rabbit trail I can chase here. I'm not going to. Again, it's getting late, and tomorrow's an early day. I do appreciate you guys joining us here today. I think that we've been in double digits nearly the entire stream. That's awesome. If you haven't yet, I would appreciate a thumbs up on the video. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, that would be a big help. And if you do subscribe to the channel, make sure you click that notification bell so you see when I upload new content. I've got a couple of fun videos that have been filmed, and I am just trying to get some time to edit them. Autumn is one of my really busy times. So, but yes, I know what they say about excuses. Speaking of subscribing and following, I've already mentioned my social media. You can get links to those down in the description. And while you're on your way down to my social media links, make sure you check out Elias's. And Elias, you want to tell them a little bit more about the Liberty Review podcast?
The fact that I have one recorded and I need to finish putting the audio and publish it?
Well, sure.
No. I mean, there's one that exists. I just need to finish cleaning the audio on it and then release it.
And you guys can head over to libertyreview1776.com and check out when Elias uploads new content. He does have some backlog there. And Elias, they can subscribe to your podcast wherever they consume podcasts regularly, correct?
Correct. Yep.
So I follow him on Spotify. You might choose Apple Podcasts. I don't know, or Apple Music, or
whatever it is this month.
I'm not an Apple guy. I use Mac products. I use Apple products at work, but I'm not personally an Apple guy. Anyway, so guys, if you would like to support the channel and get yourself some nice threads, you can head over to the merchandise store, link in the description. Pick yourself up some channel t-shirts or some coffee cups or maybe some stickers, and the channel will get a few dollars off of every sale there. And of course, you can always support the channel directly either at Patreon or at Subscribestar using the links that have come across your screen and are down in the description. So, any last thoughts and comments, Elias?
I'm only disappointed that we agreed on everything and I didn't get the dissent. In honor of Justice Ginsburg, I should have gotten dissent at some point in this episode.
Wait. Here we go.
I'm argumentative, so.
Here we go. The Senate should absolutely push through President Trump's nomination as fast as they can.
I absolutely dissent on that
There
one.
we go. All right, guys.
Absolutely dissent on that one. No.
See, there you go. You got your opportunity to dissent.
Like I said, just no matter what, it's just not a good. Like I said, I think maybe if they said we'll take until January 1st to do it, maybe okay, but you know they're not going to. So
Well, and I have seen,
push fast.
I saw just before we started the stream today, it was either Guns and Gadgets or Coley and Noir. I think it was Guns and Gadgets, said that the current front runner for the nomination actually turns out to have some really, really weak stances on 2A decisions. And which obviously, given the content of this channel, is one of our main focuses.
We'll have to see. He's supposed to announce on Saturday.
So, yeah, we'll just have to see. But I absolutely agree that, you know, this President Trump is the president at very least until January. There's no reason to try to shove it through just to shove things through. So. That's what she said. And on that note, guys.
Well, he does have to. I will say he does have to. If he wants to do it with the Senate, he would have to do it before January 1st, because January 1st or 2nd, somewhere around there, is when the new Senate is voted into office. So.
Gotcha. And this is why I have you on, because government class was a long time ago, and I've only recently started doing my job. Honestly, it's our job. We the people. Guys, thanks for watching. Until next time, shoot straight, stay safe.